Hello everyone, my name is Kate, and again today we are talking about fears, phobias, and other mental struggles. Today's topic is about fear of exams. It is a very important topic as for kids. If you have kids and they're super anxious about exams, as well as for adults, because the feelings, if you're anxious before the exam, it is the same feeling as kids anxious before the exam, right? So any worry before the exam, right? It is the repressed feelings, it is something that you cannot process and it's unconscious. And any thought that is unconscious, but it triggers real physical symptoms in your body, it creates this worry, right? You get agitated, right? You get really agitated. Why? Because for many people who are afraid of passing exams, exam feels unconsciously like the end of the world. Really. Why it is like that? Because it goes from the childhood, from your parents. You were born, you were not afraid of exams, right? You didn't even know what it is. And if parents, school, system, right, didn't put those expectations on you, you would be really easygoing with the exam. Like really easygoing. You wouldn't develop anxiety if you didn't form that belief that went into your unconscious mind. So now you're freaking frustrated, that you have this anxiety before exam. Even as adults, that we understand that consciously, logically, we understand that there is nothing wrong with failing an exam, right? So why do we feel so anxious? And for some people, it's just anxiety, but for many people, it is real panic to the point where they forget everything and they actually don't pass the exam. I'm not saying failing, but I say they don't pass, right? So it feels like real. Any fear of exam is the fear of failure, fear of punishment, fear of criticism, right? That is sitting in the unconscious mind. Because logically, even like your friends or teachers, instructors, your partners, they will tell you that everything is fine. Even if you don't pass this time, it's going to be okay. But somehow it doesn't ease our anxiety. It doesn't, right? So why fear of exam is so strong, why it causes panic attacks, because it is important for you. You made the belief when you were a child that exam is important, right? Also, because you were raised to believe that exam defines your future. And if it defines your future, without passing the exam, you will not survive. And that's what most of the parent and most of the system teachers will tell you, that if you don't pass the exam, you fail. If you fail, you're no one. You're worthless, you're gonna stay homeless or whatever beliefs your parents or teachers or put in you, you carry that belief throughout your whole life until you start to question it, until you process it. So that's really important, right? Your belief stops to be the belief when you start to question it, when you start to really think about like, oh, that's not me. That's my parents told me. That's my teachers. That school told me, right? But sometimes you're 45, you're still freaking anxious about before the exam, right? So exam, it's worry. Worry, it's physical symptoms all the time, right? Physical symptoms, it's inability to think about this exam, right? Inability to think about this exam creates more worry, anxiety, and that's just like a spiraling circle that never ends. So you have to break it at some point. When there is like this kind of a cycle, overwhelming cycle, you have to break it at some point, right? And the best way to break it is to process, like to find the reason why you're afraid of exams, right? What happens? What are the physical symptoms? And you probably know, but I'm talking to someone who might not recognize that they have the fear of exams. So usually it will show up somewhere here in the chest, stomach, People who have IBS will always be worried, about the exams, and they will have all the physical symptoms connected to the digestive system. They can have diarrhea, constipation, bloating, indigestion, like you can even feel like you had a poisoning, right? Food poisoning. It might not be the food poisoning. It actually can be psychological. Also, if it's in the chest, you can have a heart rate, hyperventilating, right? If it's in your head, you can have overwhelming thoughts, catastrophizing, panics, like all of these emotions. If you have problems with any organ in your body, it will feel that stress, fear of exam, right? So shaken in a bit. Sometimes people are so panicky before the exam that they actually don't pass the exam, because when you are in a fight or flight mode, of course your brain is not going to focus on the retaining information, giving information, organizing thoughts, analyzing, right? So people who, for example, medical students, right? A lot of them are struggling with passing that exam, that final exam, right? Because they know that defines my future, right? And they are in a huge stress. And sometimes in many cases, they pass, but at the same time, their body collapses after the exam. A lot of people are in so much stress, but after the stressful event, they collapse and sometimes have like real physical symptoms, which called the recovery stage. Sometimes people think that people get sick in the fight or flight mode. No, in a fight or flight, you're ready to fight. So you don't get sick. It's in a recovery mode when the traumatic experience or the stressful experience is already done, right? So the root and the cause for the fear of exam is always in the beliefs system that you formed as a child, or maybe as a teenager. Maybe you were not that afraid of exams, but the more you grew up, right, the more expectations were put on you, the more expectation you put on yourself, the more responsibility you feel, and you feel like, oh, this is serious, this is important, right? And because your brain understands important as survival, so that's why it goes into the fight or flight mode, because it was to save you. It doesn't understand that it's just an exam. It understands it as a real life-threatening condition. Your mind does not differentiate exam from surviving, like actually saving your life. That's why it gives you these same physical symptom, anxiety, panic attack, because it doesn't understand. You need to give your mind an understanding. I'll tell you how to do that, but need to give your mind an understanding that that's the exam. This is not a life-threatening condition. This is not like a life-threatening event. So regarding exams, it's sometimes people are afraid of the exam, not because of the exam itself, but because their parents put that vision of the future for them, that they formed the belief that if you do great in school, if you do great in college or university or course or certificate, right, you'll do great. This is what we expect from you. So the child, of course, will be very stressed, because for her or for him, right, they just want this more careless, carefree, right? Carefree life, but they cannot have it because from the very early age, they need to be really, really, really responsible, which is very unnatural for us as humans, right? We adapt to it for sure, but it's not very natural. So fear of failure is the biggest root cause of the fear of exam, fear of failure, right? And this fear of failure also has its roots. So you need to find that core belief. You need to find that core belief, like who expects that exam to be passed, right? Why you put so much stress on it? What happens if you don't pass the exam, right? Fear of punishment. If you were punished a lot, of course you will have a fear of exams. Of course, especially if you were punished, criticized, judged after just a regular test, math test, for example, right? If you were judged for that, yeah, you will definitely be be afraid of passing exams, right? Because it's important. Fear of failure as well, right? Sometimes you are a child of a perfectionist parents. Sometimes we are kids of narcissist parents, so we will have these fears very, very commonly, because it is the way your mind works, and the mind wants to save you. So because it wants to save you and it sees exam as a life-threatening event, it will keep you away from it by giving you panic attacks, right? Very important. What are the first steps that you need to do is finding, and I probably tell that in every single fear or phobia, right? It doesn't count with you. You're not born with your fear, and you are not born with your phobia. Especially something like fear of intimacy, fear of exams, fear of public speaking. You are not born with it. So, which means that you have acquired that fear, which means that you can unlearn that and make it unfamiliar. It's possible. The way you learn, the way you unlearn as well, right? Or make it unfamiliar. So that's really important. You can do that by guided meditation, self-work, inner work, regression scale, right? You can do it with hypnosis. Like I work with hypnosis, and I love it because I don't feel like you can actually go to the root cause of the fear without being in your subconscious mind, right? Grounding exercises can help you temporarily. There are lots of them on YouTube. Please watch it. You'll find them that can actually bring you back and regulate your nervous system. However, they are temporary. Like they will help you for the meantime, right? To help you come down. But as soon, because the root cause wasn't resolved, you'll feel that again. Right? You will be much faster regulated, absolutely, much better with time, but you need to do that in complex, right? So also what helps me, if you don't work on the root cause yet, but you have an exam coming up soon, you can write down the plan for the worst scenario. Like I don't fail. So if I, for example, don't pass the exam, I can go somewhere and I can, I can book another exam. What will happen to me? What will happen to me in case I don't pass? You make a plan. You really write it down. Not just in your head. That doesn't help. No, because it's not really ingrained in your mind. So you write it down and it helps you. And then you'll calm down. You'll know that it's not the end of the world. You're giving your mind an understanding that it's not the end of the world, that after exam, there is life. However, your subconscious mind might not still know that. So you have to do that in order to help yourself. No one can help you but you. So be healthy physically and mentally. If you want more of these videos about fears, phobias, relationship, everything that revolves around your subconscious mind, please subscribe. That will tell me that I have to do that more. Thank you so much. Bye.